The early college basketball upsets have continued to roll. Can we give some props to Mercer? But other ones as well on a grander scale that we got to talk about here on this Monday. Hey, how are you folks? Jason Horowitz. Glad to be with you each and every Monday with Parrish's three-pointers, the point of view from our CBSSports.com college basketball columnist, Gary Parrish. And Gary, let's start this week with the Big Ten. Michigan upsetting UCLA, Illinois winning at Vanderbilt. We'll see what Wisconsin does tonight with Connecticut. But is this conference better than what we thought it would be going into the season?
It could be, sure, and it looks good so far, but I'm not sure it's time to get too excited just yet. We always knew Michigan State and Purdue would be good. They are, and I love Ohio State's young talent, and Wisconsin's always going to be steady. So those are the four teams I think everybody probably assumed would be NCAA tournament teams. But after that, there's still some question marks. Minnesota's off to the 4-0 start with a true road win at Colorado State. Illinois has that win at Vandy, and Michigan has the one over UCLA. All those things are nice, but none of them are necessarily indicators of what's to come because Minnesota still hasn't played a good team. It's unclear whether Vanderbilt's going to be any good considering what it lost. And as I pointed out last week, John Beilein has always played Ben Howland tight, regardless of whether John Beilein has a good team or not. So let's wait and see what happens over the next couple of weeks. But there's no denying the league is off to a really, really nice start. I think it's 35-1 overall league record.
Yeah, absolutely. So far, with that one loss being Michigan's loss to Duke at that point, the night after beating UCLA. All right, you talked about Ben Howland at UCLA. Let's talk about the other team in Los Angeles, USC. They were top 25 heading into the season. A couple of losses in Puerto Rico. They blew a lead to Seton Hall, a big one, and then they lose to Missouri on Sunday night. Is it possible that Tim Floyd has just lost too much talent the last couple of years that probably should or could still be there for his team to be as competitive as maybe they should be?
He's lost a lot. Yeah, I mean, O.J. Mayo, Devon Jefferson, Nick Young, Gabe Pruitt. But still, this start has really surprised me. Any team with Daniel Hackett, Taj Gibson, Dwight Lewis, DeMar DeRozan, and Leonard Washington should be good. But the Trojans sitting here, they got two losses already to a bottom-tier Big East program and a middle-of-the-pack Big 12 program. That's awful. So I'm not sure what the problem is, except for maybe the staff was expecting great things from DeRozan, and he hasn't been great yet. But I do believe USC will get this turned around. It's only because it'll take advantage of a weak Pac-10. Trust me, Tim Floyd will be there in March, but this is a start that I don't think many saw coming.
All right, well, in that same tournament, Memphis also had a loss falling to Xavier in the championship game there in Puerto Rico. Because of that Tigers loss and maybe the win against UAB's win against Arizona, maybe a couple other teams, and because of what Memphis lost after last year in terms of the NBA draft into graduation, is it possible that we're going to see somebody make a run at Memphis for a Conference USA title this year?
I think it'll be competitive this year, which is a huge improvement over the past couple. UAB's the obvious pick. They're 4-0 already with wins at Arizona and Old Dominion. Now they got a trip to New York coming up with a game against Oklahoma and then, either Purdue or Boston College. This is a huge week, not just for UAB, but for the league and for Memphis even. Look, Memphis is going to be there at the end regardless of what happened in Puerto Rico. But what that league needs is somebody to push them, and somebody to, help it get a second bid or maybe even a third bid if you can throw in a UTEP or a Southern Miss or a Tulsa. So I think UAB behind Robert Vaden and from a talent standpoint, UAB's right there with Memphis, I believe. And so if they can, knock off a win or two in New York, really just come out of there no worse than 1-1, then it's time to look forward and really legitimately look at Conference USA as at least a two-bid league.
Does that Memphis loss, though, Gary, hit on a trend that maybe you're thinking about as the early part of this college basketball season?
Yeah, and you can add USC in there, too, and it's that you can't lose a bunch of pros and keep moving forward like nothing happened. If you notice in the preseason, I had UCLA and Memphis both ranked lower than they were in the AP poll, and I don't have Kansas ranked at all. It's a pretty simple reason. UCLA and Memphis each lost 3 NBA players. Kansas lost 5. You don't recover from that so easily. You can look at Florida last season as proof. So while I didn't necessarily expect UCLA to lose to Michigan or Memphis to lose to Xavier, I wasn't surprised at all at the way those things, went. UCLA lose Kevin Love, Russell Westbrook, Luke Richard, and Bayamute. The Tigers lost Derrick Rose, Joey Dorsey, Chris Douglas-Roberts. Last year, with those type of players, they could play poorly and still win, but that's no longer the case. Sure, they're still good teams, but just not good enough to overcome the same mistakes they could overcome last season because they lost a lot of personnel.
Gary, one last thing here, because it is the week. There's a lot of tournaments. You're going to be in Orlando for a good one. There's the CBE Classic in Kansas City, Syracuse in Florida. You've got Washington and Kansas there as well. But the one that people always focus on because it's of all the great talent that's there is the Maui Invitational. It gets going on this Monday here. What are you hoping to see out of that tournament this week?
Well, at the end, I think everybody wants to see North Carolina versus Notre Dame. Tyler Hansbrough against Luke Harangody. I spent some time with Harangody this preseason, and I can tell you with a degree of certainty that he very much wants to battle Hansbrough on a national stage. He knows he posts similar numbers, but gets a fraction of the publicity. And though he says it with a smile, it's pretty clear it bothers him. So he'd love nothing more than to outdo Hansbrough on TV. And if he could get, to lead the Irish to an upset, he'd propel himself to the top of the National Player of the Year race. So, with apologies and all due respect to Texas, you hope they get out of the way and set us up for a Notre Dame, North Carolina final on Wednesday night.
Well, from what we learned about the 2K Sports Classic, they didn't get out of the way. Teams like Michigan didn't get out of the way, so we didn't get Duke UCLA. We'll see if it happens in Maui. Gary Parrish, thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Jason.
All right, folks, and for more from Gary, because he'll be in Orlando to cover the Old Spice Classic there, the Old Spice in Orlando, be sure to check out everything from Gary Parrish here on CBSSports.com. For my buddy, I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care, folks.